Review copy provided by Microsoft. Let me tell you what you're not going to hear. You won't hear me whine about how this isn't XCOM or Fire Emblem, how this doesn't do what they do, and how I like them more. Hi, I'm Oni Black Mage, and today I'll be reviewing Gears Tactics. To talk about this game, it's important to remember what makes a Gears of War game. Originally, it's a cover-based third-person shooter series that is known for amazing environments, giant boss battles, and pushing back overwhelming hordes with all sorts of creative weapons, most notably the chainsaw bayonet. It's also a series that has balanced addictive multiplayer with a long story campaign filled with developed characters and world-building lore. What the Coalition and Splash Damage have done is take those core elements and translate them into a turn-based tactical strategy game, and honestly, it works rather well. For story, the game takes place before the events of even Gears Judgment, making it the earliest game chronologically, so the weapons and enemies are familiar from mainly Gears 1. You assume the role of Gabriel Diaz, a soldier who distinguished himself as a master strategist in the earlier Pendulum Wars, but self-demoted himself to a mechanic to get away from the dirty politics guiding the COG army. He is handpicked to gather his own resources and hunt down the Locust scientists developing the most fearsome monsters for their own army, a threat named Ukon. Gabe was paired with a veteran named Sid, a stranded leader named Michaela, and a jaded woman named Reyna, all of whom have a personal bone to pick with Ukon. Fans of the lore who are also up to date with Gears 5's story will find deeper meaning in Ukon's presence while appreciating the brief but significant role he plays in the war, as well as Gabe and Reyna, who are the late parents to Kate Diaz. The story is formatted in the series' traditional manner of main acts composed of multiple chapters. Each chapter begins with a cinematic progressing the story and leads to a battle scenario. Battles themselves field up to 4 units, each of which start each turn with 3 actions. These actions may be moving in a radial direction as there is no grid, firing or reloading a weapon, or using any special skills the unit has. These actions do not need to be used up all at once, as the player can switch between units and execute moves and abilities as dynamically as they want, until they run out of action points. In typical Gears fashion, sticking to and moving from cover to outfight and outflank the hordes of enemies is the main focus. Dozens of enemies will be fought in each chapter, each with their own strengths and unique attacks against which the proper counters must be utilized. Units under the player are one of 5 different classes: the Support, which can heal and buff allies, the Vanguard, who can regenerate health and debuff enemies, the Sniper, who deals heavy damage at a long range, the Scout, who can cloak themselves and move quickly, and the Heavy, who masters cover and Overwatch usage. Each unit has a primary gun, secondary sidearm, and grenade slot, and each unit has 3 slots for armor. Each class has a designated weapon as its primary firearm, which may be further enhanced with 4 weapon mods specific for that class of weapon. A leveling system exists, but it only serves as a means to gain skills to further specialize the strengths of the unit. Additional units will be found and can be recruited as the game goes on, but it should be noted that the main characters of the game serve as their own category called heroes. However, all this means is that they are units that cannot afford to be killed and lost forever, as they do not have any special stats or abilities, though are required on certain missions. Statistically, this makes them no better than generic units you find. Though the faces of the heroes cannot be customized, any generic soldiers can, and the game features a strong offering of hairstyles, face options, and headgear to make your units more unique, but no, you cannot change their names. Similarly, the amount of armor pieces is robust and customizable in color and material, feeling like it's straight from the main series multiplayer. In combat, RNG plays a big role, as is typical of strategy games. Before confirming an action, the game shows you the calculations going into figuring out the result, and the game feels fair when it comes to its mischances. You can safely feel it's worth the gamble to take shots even at 30% accuracy if it means the payoff of interrupting an enemy. A unique tool available to the player that adds a new layer of strategy is the execution system. If an enemy is down but not killed, they may be revived by another enemy, but if the player gets to them quicker, they can kill them in a signature gory Gears fashion. Doing so grants every other ally a bonus action, and there is no limit in doing so, allowing the player to extend their turn far beyond the initial 3 actions per unit per turn. Chaining an execution into additional kills feels gratifying and necessary, as players are always outnumbered and enemies frequently reinforce themselves. Now, actions on the enemy's turn are limited to Gears' version of Overwatch, which allows a unit to convert their unused actions for their turn into potential shots at an enemy that crosses their effective cone. The risk and reward of using Overwatch is high, as enemy AI is smart enough to try and flank or avoid your Overwatch deliberately, and interrupt you with their tools as much as you will against their own Overwatches. Still, holding choke points and stopping rushdown foes is a valid and crucial step to any battle. Across each battlefield, and rewarded at the end of a mission, are equipment cases that hold a randomized weapon mod or armor piece at a designated rarity. The random nature of this, combined with how slow units level and gain skills, is a low point, as gear becomes the main way a unit gets stronger. This makes every box crucial, though hoping for a good drop is an unsatisfying reward after a tough battle. Mods and armor are all useful, but some are clearly better than others, and it's disappointing when you get a duplicate. In between many of the 22 main missions of the game are side missions, but despite their name, are neither optional nor smaller than the main missions. Instead, they are simply not as involved in the game's main story, and mostly serve as a way to recruit random new units or obtain more equipment cases. There are 4 types of side missions, like King of the Hill or rescuing prisoners, and oftentimes have constraints that start the player at a notable disadvantage. The first few times were fine, but as time went on, I felt side missions were simply less fun, seemed repetitive, and halted the pace of the game with an uninteresting and lengthy mission that resulted in underwhelming loot. A nice touch is that missions also feature checkpoints, so if things do go poorly, resetting can be a reprieve against the frustration. One strong point of Gear's tactics is the fantastic production values, as in-game environments and models look fantastic, actor performances are good, and the cinematics are of the quality one expects from this franchise. Even if you don't have a modern PC, no worries, I ran this on a 5-year-old computer and it still looked and ran great. The game suffered no freezing or crashing, and I only encountered one bug of a unit leaving elevated cover and being stuck in the air, but a quick checkpoint reset fixed it. I would have liked a stronger musical backing, as while sound design was spot on for effects, Gears of War is also known for impactful musical themes, and the soundtrack here was lacking and forgettable. Another strong point are the incredibly fun and creatively done boss battles that end each of the 3 acts. Keeping players on their toes with unique approaches to combat felt like a dramatic test to master the fundamentals of this battle system. While the main missions are fun, a few more levels showcasing this level of complexity would be more in line with the finer points of a normal Gears game, which often have dynamically interesting situations to put a spin on normal gameplay and break up any monotony. Overall, the game starts strong and ends strong, with the middle act feeling slower in pace and grindier in content. The main game clocks in at about 25 hours, and once done, though there is no New Game Plus, there is the option to continue playing more challenging side missions into harder missions called Veteran Missions, all for more gear. For a first time in a new genre for an established series, Gears Tactics is a great first step, and there is much to learn that can be applied in another installment if they continue. I would personally like to see better mission variety and environment diversity, add more weapon options to units, a rework of side missions or at least the option to skip them, and an option to do something with my benched generic units or unused mods and armor. Gears fans can look forward to rewarding storytelling, interesting lore, and violent combat, and strategy fans can look forward to a more action-focused game pace, fair yet punishing challenge, and excellent polish. This is an above-average game, with noticeable high points but noticeable low points, yet is still worth your time and money at some point. Before we leave, here are some tips to get you started. Do not sleep on chainsaw, bayonet, or kicking a ticker actions, as it combines a move and an action, but make sure to check if the enemy will interrupt that action first. When setting up actions, set up Overwatch last, unless you're setting up in a unit to be knocked back, in which case it can trigger another ally's Overwatch. Scan the map first for equipment cases, as they're not usually too far off the path you'll likely take towards the mission objectives. For me, I noticed that knockback is the most valuable effect alongside anything that lowers cooldowns, grants an action, or combines 2 actions like firing and reloading. With knockback, you interrupt enemy actions like Overwatch and pinning, push foes away, and can even push foes back into a grub hole for an instant kill. For this, grenades and weapons with the Disrupt mod are so valuable. Scouts are supremely useful, not just for their cloak ability, but proximity mines have so much use. Besides being a grenade, you can plant one on a grub hole before it opens, and once it does, it will instantly close it when the enemies surface while killing them. The most useful abilities on the skill tree are the ones surrounding the center, and the 6 on the outermost edges. Everything in between is an improvement on the role that you want that unit to be. There are chances to respec. Accuracy is always important, of course, but crit chance and damage go a long way, especially against bosses. Disrupt and Expertise are the most valuable weapon mods in my book, with Bloodlust and Flatliner being very useful also, but more for aggressive units. For armor, what I recommend looking out for are attributes called Potential, Blitz, Autoloader, Self-Repair, and I highly recommend Blast Radius and Utility Belt for whoever's going to be mostly your grenade user, which should be any of your scouts, but also some of the regular units too, like Vanguards. If you don't see those or don't get those, I also highly recommend Hardened or movement increases. Thank you so much for watching this review, I hope it helped. And if you like to hear story summaries of a lot of your favorite games, check out a series I produce called Recapitation. Enjoy, and I'll see you on the next battlefield.